After Dark. I'm here with my good friend JP. JP, what up?
What up?
It's good to have you back. As usual, we've been having a few conversations outside of the studio with other people. We've been kind of witnessing and seeing a lot of things come through on the media, whether it be social media, the news. Also, sort of witnessing or having, being involved maybe in conversation, maybe not actively, but just sort of on the fringes about with regard to some things that I find very frustrating. And I know it's frustrating. The people that are having these conversations are being frustrated by them as well on a couple of different levels. And that is some of the things that we're hearing specific with regard to law enforcement and even military and say executive protection, but more specifically law enforcement and all the negative press that they've been getting, specific to how certain situations are getting handled out there. And then you have the civilian side of things that are looking at it with very, let's just say, a certain set of goggles on and maybe making some, let's just say, assumptions, and I'm going to call them gross assumptions about what the reality of things are like for these officers and the things that they have to do. And I guess my point of this is I think what I wanted to do is come together tonight with you and maybe just start to have a conversation, maybe at a little bit different level as two civilian dudes that have witnessed these things, maybe train with some of these people, and have a little bit of a different perspective and would like to provide one so that, again, we can start a conversation and have a line of communication that maybe breaks some of the stigma, but also brings perspective to those on both sides about some things that they might be able to do in order to make this better.
Yeah. I think you and me have like a little bit of a different perspective since we're civilians and we just enjoy training a bunch. And because of that, we end up being surrounded with a lot of like first responders, whether that's like EMT, military, SWAT, law enforcement, like just all the time. We're always around them. So whether we see what's going on the news or we see their daily habits just by being their friends, how often they work out, how often they hit the range, what they look like when they work out, what they look like when they hit the range, how much alcohol consumption they have versus maybe meat and vegetables. You kind of get where I'm going with this.
Totally.
Yeah. So I definitely want to talk about it because, dude, it's really scary right now to be a first responder. Not only because you see a lot of crazy stuff at any era of being like a first responder, but then now like there's a lot of like laws and a lot of direction that's like tying their hands behind their back. Like there's a lot of like restrictions if you're law enforcement, and but also at the same time from the people above. At the same time, they're not doing everything that they can to represent themselves either.
Oh, I definitely think they could be doing a better job of taking responsibility for a few things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, look, you said it, their hands are tied, whether it's funding or lack of staff. They may be short staffed in certain departments. You still have a job to do at the end of the day. Yep. Right. And so, how do you do that? Right. Given your current circumstance, I think that's the conversation that we're trying to have is maybe maybe bring some different kind of solutions to it rather than just the finger pointing back and forth, which just isn't making anything better. Again, you said it, they're getting very little support right now. And it's an awful job. I mean, when I talk to these guys, they're so bummed. This isn't what I signed up for. I dreamed about doing this thing my whole life because I wanted to help people. And I'm having a really tough time doing that. And a lot of them are starting to resent the job. Mm-hmm. That's not a good place for us to be. No. And I do actually know what that feels like at some level, and putting out, and then having constantly just being punched in the mouth every time you try to make a difference or try to do your job. And that's problematic. And it starts a really negative mindset. It can start a really negative attitude. It can lead to complacency, lead to finger pointing. It divides people. Mm-hmm. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that on both sides. And it doesn't make it easier for those people in your let's just say your genre, your business, your field, when other people are, let's just say if you're eating your own, it just makes it easier for those leeches, you know, and those people on the outside to continually poke holes in the fabric.
Yeah. I mean, I know that we're like gun dudes, so like it's easy to like quote Jocko and be like extreme ownership, but I think everybody should be thinking about that in any profession that they take. I just think this one is really like under the magnifying glass. You know what I mean? Like, because with whether it's social media or just actual news, you're always going to see all like the crappy stuff that goes on. You're not going to see like all the good stuff that first responders do for us. You know
always what I mean? Like that. Always.
Yeah. And so right away, you're already carrying that on your back, whether you walk around and like some punk thinks that they can talk to you however they want. Like, I have one of the best training partners I've ever had. I don't talk to her very often because, and she's probably gonna go to the CrossFit Games, honestly, but she is like so anti-police and like so vulgar and like angry about it because she grew up in like Stockton. And like, I always tell her like, man, you gotta put yourself in their shoes, dude. Like, I don't agree with you and your political views, but like, I'm still friends with you because I know in your heart, you're a good person. You just maybe aren't as educated, or maybe I'm not as educated, but I'm willing to have the conversation, you know? And like, there's people like that are willing to like really be like crazy and say shit and do shit to law enforcement. So you already have that on your back. Like, why wouldn't you try to be the best version of you, you know, when you're walking around, so that nobody can say anything and you can lead the best career that you can possibly have?
I think it gets even harder, man. They're not just wearing it on their back. They're literally wearing it on their chests, you know, with body cams now. Mm-hmm. So they take a 5-second clip of a 10-minute, you know, interaction of whatever it is. And when I say they, I mean those that wish to disparage the individual that's wearing the badge, mm-hmm. right? That's in the position of quote unquote authority or whatever in the particular situation. And it can be easily spun into a million different things. And none of them ever seem to be good. I never see, well, it's not, I do, you know, from a social media perspective, I do follow, you know, a few handles that do a really good job of putting out some really positive things. But even then, it's still 95% weighted to all the things that have gone wrong and all the negative publicity. And even those pages that are pro-police, right, are still going, hey, this sucks. This is why this sucks. And that's fine. Like, I don't disagree with that. I mean, holding people accountable is very important. I think that's one of the bigger problems that we're having is mm-hmm. people are not holding themselves accountable and keeping themselves or taking personal responsibility for the things that they do, say, and don't say out there on both sides, but particularly in law enforcement. So I guess my point of this is it's the snippet, the sizzly snippet makes it even harder for them to earn credibility, to keep that credibility and make it positive on a daily basis. And what I think if you talk to a lot of these guys, a lot of men and women in the law enforcement community, and as you've already stated, we do a lot, train with them, we see them, we're in the same social groups. When you talk to them, like I said, they're starting to just feel bitter. Yeah. Right. And I totally understand why. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, same here.
But it doesn't give you an excuse not to do the basic things that you should be doing to be the best you can be at your job. And I think that's the point you were making.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm going to give a lot of personal experiences I've had across this episode, but like, for example, at a gym I used to work at, I started to really resent like the people I worked for. And it didn't matter. I knew the end result, the people I coached. I had large classes. I had individual coaching I did. I knew I could never take that out on them. So I was always the best version of me. Even if I had to do like fake smiles and always crack jokes, it didn't matter. Like, I knew I cared about these people. I have to make sure that they see the best version of me. It doesn't matter how I feel about the company. And my reason for saying that is like, I know what it's like to like resent your job and all this shit like that. But like, I didn't stop. I didn't like throw a tantrum and like start doing a shitty job. You know what I mean? So like, ultimately your life is what you make it. So if you choose to be, you know, law enforcement or EMT, firefighter, military, any of that stuff that we're kind of covering here, your life is going to be what you make it, dude. like every day, depending on how hard you work and what energy you put out, how you think about things, that's what you're going to reap. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you reap what you sow, as they say, and mindset is where everything starts. And again, so I think just being very specific about some of the mindset things, here's what I hear on the law enforcement side of things. And we can talk about what I hear on the other side of things, like what you said about this athlete that's training is very, very not pro police.
Yeah.
But here's what I hear. We're underfunded, right? We are understaffed. And because of those things, we're working longer hours. We're pulled into other types or other, let's say, adjunct duties. Not only do I work my typical shift, but I'm also an FTO or field training officer.
Out in this section.
Right. And oh, by the way, I was a medic, in the military. So they've asked me to do some of the, gunshot trauma or, stop the bleed type of courses or help out with that. Or I was a firearms instructor. So they've asked me to come out onto the range in a past life or in another department or whatever. So now I'm doing that. And before you know it, it's the job all the time. It's the job all the time. There really is no downtime. They're not sleeping enough, and things they're constantly stressed. They're just moving and they're not getting, and on the flip side of that, when they go to work every day, they're being told by the public they're a piece of shit. Right. And then there's this whole, I got to cover my ass because anything I say or do right now could cost me my job, my reputation, my badge, the trust I have, from my fellow officers and or from the public at large. There's a lot of weight there. There is a ton of weight there. And these are the things that I'm hearing. And when those things start to happen, when that stress starts to pile up and onto these people, the next thing they'll tell you is, and as a result, here's how my life has been impacted. Right. I feel guilty that I don't see my wife and my kids, or, my husband and my kids, or I have things in my life or people in my life that I'm a caretaker for outside of, whether it be a spouse, partner, kids, whatever, like I take care of my dad, I take care of my sister who's special needs or whatever. I just heard this one the other day, again, so there's this whole other layer or dynamic that goes on top of that. So while they're out trying to take care of all their needs within their job, right, on the job, while they're punched in, they're also trying to take care of other people's needs. And I think this is inherent to, at least it was for a long, long time. I think in talking to some of these officers, they'll tell you that it's not quite the same anymore. It's inherent of these individuals that they are help givers. They are solution finders. They are problem solvers. And that's why they got into the department. They wanted to give back. Right. And so they're going to work every day trying to make a difference. Right. But then when they leave there, they have to try to make a difference for somebody else, maybe outside of there. And again, I talked about family, immediate, extended, whatever else. This starts to create issues. Right. And that stress and that pressure, they may not be taking care of themselves the way they should be taking care of themselves with regard to their health. Their nutrition starts to falter. They don't work out as frequently or at all. They go home and they shut down because they're so physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted. They don't talk to anybody. And we've had plenty of guests on this show that have talked about the challenges that happen there. And so, they start to have relationship issues, which then, cascades into all kinds of other things or behaviors, poor behaviors, or, again, not taking care of yourself from like a health, wellness, fitness, nutrition, perspective. So there's all these things that start piling on. Right. This is a reality for these folks out there. And again, it's been talked about on this show before by those very people. So the conversation that I'm having is like, I really need to start working out again, or I really want to train more. So I've asked them, why aren't you doing those things? And a lot of it's the same fucking excuses we hear when people come to the gym finally and say, I really want to get in shape. Well, why haven't you gotten in shape before? Well, I just didn't have time. Yeah. Right. I just haven't been motivated. Like I had all of these other things that kept me from actually doing this. And to your point, it comes back to, if people do what they want to do, you have to want to be better. Right. Yep. And so I want them to be better too. And I want them to want to be better. And what I'm seeing and hearing on the flip side of this, on parallel to this, is I'm also hearing that a lot of times it's somebody else's fault, right? It's the government's fault. It's my agency's fault. It's the public's fault. It's my supervisor's fault. And there's not a lot of personal responsibility being taken for these things. That's frustrating for me to listen to, because again, people will do what they want to do. So then I ask, like, well, why aren't these other officers? And again, if I'm trying to maybe be a little bit more judicious or bureaucratic about my conversation, or diplomatic, maybe is the word I'm looking for, diplomatic about my conversation. Well, why aren't these other officers doing it? Well, because when they get home at the end of the day, they just want to hang the job up. They just want to be away from it. They don't want to continually do the job. I find that to be problematic, because I think when you take on it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. If your job is to protect people, all day long, fight crime, whatever the case is, that I don't think that job goes away. I mean, you have to find outlets, you have to find things to do. Don't get me wrong. But I think always on your mind, you need to be of the mindset that what am I doing right now to be better at my job? And maybe that's spending time with your family, right? Maybe that's spending time working out. Maybe that's finding some support group to be a part of to take care of your mental and emotional health. But those are things that you have to do in order to be better at your job come home at the end of the day. So in the interest of your own personal safety, but also officer safety and public safety, those to me seem like responsibilities that you can't shake. You can't walk away from. I'll stop there.
No, I mean, man, it's tough, because there's two sides of the coin for me, because I have so many friends for a long time that either I watched them go through college and then become a cop or military. And then I also know how they are now. And a lot of what you said is like exactly what it is, dude. It's a lot to ask of somebody. I don't think that they get paid enough. I don't think there's enough funding. You would assume with their job title that there would be just constant training. From what I've collected, I would prefer there to be more training and less hours worked, and just a larger force so that you can rotate them in like a high quality. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but this is so misunderstood. This is not understood by the public.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that like, we're going to sit here and talk about this because we have a ton of friends with a ton of experience that we've talked to, and from the outside, from being just a friend for years now, people in this community, that's where our opinion comes from and our concern. We're not like your average person, which is very frustrating to me. That's just like has this opinion that they've just put together off of what they see off the news.
Makes me angry.
Yeah, it makes me angry too. But on the flip side, it makes me angry that I can't all the way defend first responders because, because one of my best friends, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, but one of my best friends growing up, I stopped drinking like 7 years ago. And when he finally became Stockton PD, it took less than a year for the woman that I thought he was going to marry to give him an ultimatum saying like, dude, this job is killing you. You're drinking more and you're just like not a fun person to be around. And then for me, like to see that and try to be there for him. And then he's basically like, he does, and he says without saying that, like, you know, look, if you're not going to be on the train and like party and stuff like that, then like, you know, we're cool, but like, I'm just not going to hit you up anymore. You know, long story short. And so now that guy who has a good heart, I know this person, I grew up with him, and I'm seeing him basically be like an alcoholic. You know, he's got a kid and everything like that. Now he's like a single parent, you know what I mean? Half the time with the kid. And he's not as fit as me. I'm not even at my fittest, and I promise you he's not as fit as me. All he cares about is bench and deadlift. And we know how effective that is for being a police officer. That's better than nothing. But I mean, come on.
Doesn't translate.
Yeah. And then he refuses to shoot with me. He's one of the many people that I've offered to put my own ammo and time for free, just because I wanted to say, hey, if I can help you become a better shooter and perhaps talk tactics, not that I've been in a situation where I can tell you tactics, just from what I've collected from all the reputable people that have trained me, I'm willing to give me a time and day. Mm-hmm. And he refuses to because he's competitive and he doesn't want to see me outshoot him.
That's silly.
And that's what I'm saying. So I know this is a good person, but this is the type of person that one of many that I've dealt with where he doesn't want to run, but he fucking deadlifts 500 pounds. Good job, dude.
Yeah, it's there's like a misunderstanding of how to focus that energy at that time. Maybe I don't know. I mean, that goes way outside of law enforcement, though. I mean, people just have a kind of a weird connection to what is health, what is fitness, right? Like fitness for him is deadlifting and benching.
Yeah,
where it could probably, I mean, we could probably make an argument that it probably should be redefined. Fitness should be the thing that makes you the absolute best in all possible situations, knowing that there is no one perfect thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So if that's the case, then why are you limiting yourself to just deadlifting and bench pressing?
To me, I feel like it's like a mental box that you check. Like, hey man, I benched and I deadlifted this week, dude. Like I'm trying.
That, I think that's a really good point, JP. It's like you're ticking boxes.
Yeah.
You're ticking boxes and saying I'm good. Right. When the reality of it is you're not good. Right. Or at some point you're going to probably be tested. And again, I cannot put myself in that situation because I've never been there. I have no earthly idea what it's like to be out there. But we know bench pressing and deadlifting does not translate to close contact gunfighting, getting into the long-term, let's say scrum or wrestling match, if that's what, and we see that happening all the time right now. And or being in a situation where you've just got to have endurance for whatever the time is, minutes to hours, whether it be a standoff, a search, whatever else it is. I think, again, and stepping away from that is, again, your frustration with not being able to totally defend because you have people close to you in your life, or at least were close to your own life, that are not doing the right things as law enforcement officers. And that's kind of maybe who this person outside of law enforcement is actually talking about or could be talking about. That's hard for me too. Because I want to hold them up on a pedestal, but I also think that that's unfair to do, right? That you put them up there. Well, because you have a badge and a gun, you are somehow almighty, and there's this perfection sort of complex that I may have in the past seen you in. I know that's not fair because nobody is perfect. People make mistakes. And again, there is no one size fits all to solving any of these problems. But I think the point I would like to make here is that there are fucking resources. There are resources, and people will do the things that they want to do. So if you want to train, you'll train if you want to be better versus ticking a box. If you want to just tick a box, well, you can tick the box, but are you examining things at a deeper level to understand, is that box ticking that you're doing, does that really serve you in the way that it needs to serve you and the people around you, which is a responsibility that you have in that situation. Yeah. Your fellow officers, but also the public at large.
Yeah. Your team. For one, like anybody who does like team sports or military, law enforcement, or even if you're just a business person, I feel like the team should be something that's in the peripheral. It's something you're always thinking about. Like, is everybody okay? Is everybody like communicating? Is everybody eating? That kind of thing. Like, I've always thought that way. So like, and I also noticed with like CrossFit and stuff like that, like when you're in a team workout versus by yourself, you might give up and like think, nah, nobody knows when you're by yourself. But when you're like you and a partner, you're like, fuck, I can't be the bitch, or I can't be the reason why this person is let down. You're supposed to be thinking like that. You know what I mean? So if you're like the guy that, I'm just going to say it, dude, I'm being objective here. If you're the guy that's like, 80 pounds, 100 pounds overweight, and you think that's okay, like it's actually just, it's not.
It's not fucking okay.
It's not okay. Like if you're like,
it's not okay, period.
Yeah. It's not okay, period.
It's if you're a first responder, it's definitely not fucking okay.
Yeah.
Especially with the statistics we know about the lifespan of first responders anyway, with the stress that they're under. Now you're 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds overweight. Fuck you, man. Yeah. Like you're putting people at risk. And I see it and I'm like, hey, you might have some things going on. You need to address those things. What are you doing to address those things? Or are you just ticking a box and hanging your shit up at the end of the day and moving on? Not okay. It's not fucking okay.
Like with everything that I do, it's like when I have issues, I know I have to take a step back and I need to put myself in a better position to succeed. So like if that means like, oh, gas is expensive, it's $7 a gallon where we live, right? So gas is expensive. I can't be spending that much to like go to fucking Red Dot every single day or whatever. If that's okay, we'll do the math on gas for Red Dot, and why don't you go home and fucking buy yourself like an assault bike for $700, hit Tabata for 8 minutes, and then you did something.
There's an answer.
8 fucking minutes.
Yeah, there's an answer.
Dude, yesterday I knew I had to work from home and stay home all day. I did 100 burpees. That sucked, but whatever. You know what I mean?
You didn't need any equipment for that. You needed, 6 feet by 1 feet or 2 feet,
literally, dude, it's not going to make me jacked, but it will improve my performance and at least sustainable performance for whatever I need to do, let alone a police officer who we always joke about Weight Vest Wednesday. Damn, that's Weight Vest Wednesday for them every day on the job.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they should be training harder than me. Like there's days where I'm in here for 3 hours because I know that like the next day I won't be able to work out. So I'll do it. And then there's days like yesterday, 100 burpees.
Right. Again, going back to doing the things that you want to do, if you want to be better, you'll find a way to do things in order to be better. Mm-hmm. And it's just like anything else. If you talk to this is an interesting thing because on the Iron Sights podcast, whether it's After Dark or otherwise, we talk to entrepreneurs a good amount of the time. And these are people that are driven to find solutions to problems. They are not generally box tickers. They understand the value of ticking boxes with regard to framework, structure, planning, and strategy and execution of the strategy and the tactics that are involved in the strategies themselves. There is some box ticking that goes on, but they're always examining, like, am I getting the result that I need in order to be successful here? And I think that's a bigger problem in that there is no standardization for, from one department to the next. It's very, very different. And there are factors that certainly impact those from what I've learned. And I think some of it's very obvious and some of it isn't so obvious in that the larger departments seem to have a tougher time, right, with the accountability factor, right? And then also, I'm going to say the job satisfaction factor, which in the middle there, you have training that goes on, and there's like a productivity piece, I think, that fits into there. And what I've learned and these conversations that I've had and these experiences that I've had, and I think even, you can see it from the outside looking in, even if you haven't had, been as intimately involved as maybe you or I have been with these things, is you got these massive departments and they may be well funded. That doesn't mean that funding is being utilized in ways that helps people do what we just said, which was to be better on a daily basis. And going back to the feeling, this sense of feeling bitter or resentful about the job or the things that you have to do or don't have to do on a daily basis, often what that funding is now being funneled into is to satisfy some public policy for the department, which means they're doing training, but it's not things that are actually having any impact with regard to doing their daily job. It isn't. And statistically, we fucking know this now. Like, it just is not helping. We've defunded and refunded departments now, right? In the last 2 years, since what happened in basically 2 years ago now, right? Mm-hmm. In June, and all the shit that we've seen go down since then. What we've seen is, well, we're going to do more diversity training, right? We're going to do more implicit bias training, right? That's going to help de-escalate situations out on the street, right? And so there'll be less use of force and we'll have better community relationships. It's all fucking bullshit. And these officers know it. And the public should know it, because what they're seeing on the TV every day is the opposite of that. They're seeing criminals, basically crime, being decriminalized, right? Yeah. People are running rampant out on the street. And if I'm an officer, right, more than ever, I want to make sure that I'm prepared and the people around me are prepared in order to deal with the shit that they're seeing on a daily basis. And that just isn't the case. So again, go back to the resentment, go back to the training piece, and go back to some of the skills, the hard skills these people need to have in order to be good at their job. And it starts with being physically and mentally prepared. Yeah. Right. And then it gets into, all right, now I have these force multipliers. I have things that I can use to de-escalate things that, again, we'll call them soft skills with regard to their ability to talk through a situation, but they're literally going into some of the highest crime rates we've seen as a country in decades. Yeah. I'm not so sure that is a good use of our money, right, of taxpayer dollars. And I'm damn sure it's not a great use of our department's time and energy right now. I think we've really fucked up the system. I think we're in a worse spot than we probably ever have been. I know in this city, I literally was here this morning. I don't know if it's the entire district. I think we have 6. And so here's another thing. We only have 6 cars in our entire district here in where Red Dot Fitness is located. This morning, one of my coaches had gone outside while I was doing some work with a couple of other people in here today. And he came back and said, hey, I just want to let you know, there's 7 police cars out there on the street right next door. This is 50 yards from our front door. There's 6 officers stacked up at the door getting ready to make entry on this house over there. And this is in the middle. By the way, this is 10 a.m. It was 10:15 a.m. in the morning this morning, and they're going to make entrance. So we got 7 officers here. There's only 6 in the district. That means every cop in this district was there, plus somebody from another district had to come over because I know we only have 6 units. Right, was over there. Sure enough, I went out there. I wanted to see what was going on. I snapped the pic. This is what's happening to our guys, our law enforcement officers every fucking day, right? And again, we're spending time with implicit bias training and diversity training. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. And if I was sitting in their position, I'd probably be a little bitter too, because what I see happening on the street every day is shootouts. Kids are getting killed in schools in mass shootings. Another one happened today. It happened at another school today in Texas, I believe it was. Guy walks right through the lobby at a summer camp with a bunch of kids, then walks into the gymnasium and is ultimately confronted by police officers who ran into the situation and took care of the threat. The guy was shot. I think an officer was also shot, and he's, I think, stable and okay. And the piece of shit, evil human that walked in to perpetrate this shit, died on his way or in the hospital or whatever. But this is just shit that they're dealing with every day, and we're spending money on things that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I think, like I said, like it's hard to want to be a cop in particular right now versus like the other first responders. I just don't think it's like a great gig from what I can see right now, because they're kind of set up for failure from like the people above. And like I do think, like I said, I still stand by like you need to make the best of your situation. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, like I know a handful of cops that like still fairly young, still in the 30s, and like now they're thinking about on the job, they're thinking about what's the next move instead of thinking about how to be better at their job. I'm gonna open up a barber shop. I'm gonna fucking start a training program. You know what I mean? Like
they might even have a side hustle already.
Yeah, they might already have a side hustle. And so is that probably the best thing you could be doing if you're going to take on the title of law enforcement, you know? And then those same people, from what I've collected, they don't work out as much as they wish they would. You know what I mean? Maybe they drink a little bit more than they wish they would. So again, it's like, you're not really put in a position for success by the people running everything. And then you're not helping the situation because you're thinking about what's next instead of what's present in the moment. And so like, are we ever going to get good law enforcement?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I mean, I again, in these conversations, it's, you know, they're very frustrated about who's being accepted in the academy, going back to how we're choosing our officers now. You know, are we ticking the boxes, the right boxes to have a diverse enough class of people to come through, whether they're fit for the job or not. So what you're seeing is higher washout rates, you were, but now what you're seeing is those washout rates are starting to come down, which means people are coming all the way through to the other side. The question then becomes, if we've made compromise because we had to tick boxes, what kind of officer is coming out the other side and it winds up on the street? And in some cases, there are departments, I think there's 36 of them in the country, that actually allow these people to be doing work before they've even actually gone through their basic training. They're actually out on the street. Wow. Yeah, 36 states that have departments that do this. Not every department in the state, but there's like 36 states where this occurs. That's scary. But again, like what they're telling me is they're like, dude, these people that are coming on, like you got to coddle them. Like they get their feelings hurt. They've never been in a tough situation in their life. Their situation,
pretty much the workforce in 2022.
Yeah, so we're just looking at the same bullshit that we see and everything else. And now they're on the streets, and people are retiring faster than we have them coming in for the reasons that we've already stated. Yeah. And going back to the large departments versus the small departments, the larger the department, the worse it gets. What you end up seeing, or what we've got going on right now, is the larger departments, because of the pressures that they're feeling, right, and all the things that we just talked about, or we've been talking about, it's turned into more of a cover your ass type of mentality when you're out there. We talked about the media and the body worn cameras. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have body worn cameras. That's not what I'm saying. I think they protect officers in a lot of ways too. But the point there being is it's more of a cover your ass, and a lot of times less pro police work, right? And more reactive type work. And, I don't want to upset the apple cart here. I don't want to do this or say this because this could land me in hot water. So I'm just going to kind of stand back and be a little bit more passive here, which is not good. Again, going back to these criminals that have basically been decriminalized, right, for the shit that they're doing. They know they've got the advantage. Well, dude, and the officers know that they have the advantage.
I was at Whole Foods earlier getting some food before we worked out, and I'm 99% sure I seen a bum walk inside, make a plate, and then walk out.
Oh yeah, it happens. They have an officer that's standing there.
That's what I'm saying.
We're over there.
They had an officer just chilling at the door, and like nothing
happens every day. Happens every day, all day.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're not put in a position to where they can succeed.
We have a CVS across the street from us. Now everybody's seen what's going on with Walgreens and CVS and whatever else. That shit happens over there every day, to the extent that the rumor on the street is that CVS is not renewing their lease there and they're moving out. If CVS is moving out of the fucking neighborhood, shit's bad, right? And to boot, next door, speaking of funding, we've got a hotel over there that's been a cesspool for criminal activity since the dawn of time. Now, we moved in here previous to 2020, so we'll call it the pandemic, right? It was already a problem. And the city was coming down on the police department and other agencies were over there very frequently shaking them down. And the ownership was finally forced to clean it up a bit, right? 2020 happened, shit went wild. It turned into a crime zone over there. It was crazy. I know this because I lived in the gym for a long time because of some of the shit that was going on down there, and I was watching it happen all night long. Well, the governor our illustrious governor just gave the city a grant for nearly $25 million, $24.7 million. Guess what they're doing with it? They're turning that hotel into a homeless shelter.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and you just said what was going on at the Whole Foods next door. I guarantee you they're not too happy about that. I also guarantee you that the residents that live in those brand new apartment buildings there are not too happy about that. And that's beside the point. Like, I'm not going to play the not in my backyard thing. But if this shit is already happening at CVS, right, and it's already happening next door, and we already have these homeless encampments around us, I'm telling you, this isn't making the situation better. Is that really where we need to be spending our money? We have a homeless problem, but we also have a crime problem. And we're throwing 25 million at it. And I had somebody the other day trying to tell me that, this is going to be good for the neighborhood. Shut your face. I already have people that don't want to come down here anymore.
Dude,
the police officers are down here going, hey, what lead me in the right direction today? We've got a lot going on. Is there something that I can be addressing for you today down here? That's a really tough place for a cop to be. And it's a really tough place for the citizens here to be. I could be really mad at the police officers for not being over here more often, right, to deal with this shit. The bottom line is they're busy, man.
Yeah.
They're busy. So, again,
man, I wouldn't want to be the cop that just hangs out in this area and is just like, making sure bums aren't doing weird shit. Dude, like, sometimes when I'm closing up here, like, there's like bums that are like checking out the front door to see what's going on here. And then I go say, hey, can I help you? And then they're just like, what? And then they like walk away. It's like, bitch, you were checking this place out. Like
we've already had, I don't want to go too far down this path, but it was really cleaning itself up. This place was, I'm just going to say it was being gentrified. This neighborhood was what they call an urban village development. It was all about putting in new like high-rise apartment buildings with condos and things like that with retail underneath where people would stay and play, like eat, get their laundry done, you know, have a pub to go to hang out, like the train station for the Caltrain. That's a major transportation artery for the peninsula here in the Bay Area, much like BART is on the East Bay and takes people over into the peninsula here. The Diridon station is literally like 1,800 feet from here. It's like right around the corner. People were moving in here because it was affordable. It was coming up, like it was a great place to be. And now they don't want to come down here anymore. And the police departments are having to deal with this shit and the reasons why, right? Because us business owners, and I live 2 blocks from here, are calling them regularly to come deal with things. And it's not crime fighting. It's fucking babysitting, and it's people being rude to one another. Yeah. That's really what it boils down to. Just not respecting one another. And again, at the end of the day, they have to go home and they just, you know, they arrested another dirtbag or another meth head, or, you know, somebody that was less fortunate that got themselves into a different, a poor situation. Again, if you're homeless, I have compassion right up until the time where you start impacting my livelihood and you start walking into my neighborhood and fucking shit up, leaving garbage everywhere, stealing things from my front porch and all that kind of stuff. I digress. I guess the point of this is I guess where I want to bring it back to right now, dude, is what are some solutions to make this better for law enforcement and to create a conversation that's different than the one we've just described, which is it's probably not a very cool job right now.
Yeah.
Probably seemed that way, and that may be what you want to do, and it's turned. Have you turned, and what are the things that you can do to take personal responsibility at making it better for you first, which then impacts the people around you, fellow people in the department, the citizens that, you know, on the street that you're serving, you're supposed to be protecting and serving. What are the things you can be doing? Because there are things out there, and I hear a lot of excuses.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have time, or, you know, they won't give me, the department won't give me time off to do this training, or they won't fund the training, or they won't bring the training to me. So what's the answer?
Yeah, I still think it's personal responsibility. I do have friends that hit me up on IG that I've only met like a couple times through firearms training, and they're just like, oh yeah, well, I finally got some kickback from my department, so I want to do some training. I'm like, when's the last time you shot? Like, last time I shot with you. I'm like, bitch, that's been like a year.
Yeah, well, last time I qualified.
Yeah, I'm like,
I mean, they've even pushed the qualifications out. Like they're not, they haven't even been doing those as frequently in the last 2 years with all the things that have happened. So.
Yeah. So it's like, and then, you know, some of these people, they're, you know, follow them on Instagram and they're just living their best life when they're off the job. So it's like, man, how do you tell them not to, like, well, not to, but how do you tell them, like, spend more time in the gym, spend more time building confidence so you don't have to make stupid decisions because you're living in fear when you have to deal with a bum or some shit like that, like MMA stuff. Something to build some confidence so you don't think you have to pull the gun every single time something happens. But also, if you have to pull a gun, know when and know how to use it. I think you and me have had a lot of experience shooting with law enforcement where I'd say
it's hard to watch.
It's hard to watch.
It's hard to watch.
And you can say it's like a time management thing for sure. But yeah, I think personal ownership, dude. Like if this is the job you chose, you know, like, I have a 72-year-old EMT that I used to coach, deadlifts 400 pounds, runs a 6-minute, 30-second mile. What's your excuse? Do you know what I'm saying?
Look, I do know, again, just going back to it, it's tough to watch and you just go like, wow. Like, again, there's this huge realization. So I'm the guy, when I first started seeing this, again, I was making assumptions. I wasn't ever in situations. They were very like, you know, friends, just buddies I was training with. And then when I started to kind of step it up and get more advanced and seek a higher level of training, that meant I was around a higher level of people. And we started to see some officers show up, right? When I started seeing this happen and was kind of watching the result of these, what I consider fairly basic skills, I was shocked. I was like, wow. And by the way, I had been warned previously. Like, people were like, hey, I'm just going to tell you, don't expect too much. Like, you're going to see this particular group of people does not shoot very well. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
These are the guys protecting and serving.
Yeah, these are the guys protecting. These are the guy with all the gear, right?
Yeah,
and all the training, right? And they went to the academy.
They don't have to spend $2,000.
They have to qualify regularly, and they have access to ammunition. They have access to shooting range, indoor shooting range that they could be shooting at, or whatever the case. I mean, every department has a shooting range or access to one. Every single one.
So if I know correctly, like if every department's different, right? But from what I've collected from SWAT and just standard like Stockton, Modesto, SJPD, they all get an ammo license from all the people, or ammo allowance, excuse me, from all the people that I've worked with. They all get access to a range, even if it's just standstill, marksmanship, whatever. They all get assigned weapons. They all get the Glock fucking law enforcement discount, which makes Glocks pretty much a high power price. Right. You know what I mean? I don't know about you, but I mean, anybody who lives in America can pretty much afford a blue label Glock.
More or less.
Yeah. And also people like Red Dot Fitness and Train with Purpose offer them, you know, pretty nice discounts to train with us. And you mentioned this when you and me were talking, just the two of us, that like, it's almost like you're more excited to give them even more because you know, like, hey man, like this is going to help you out there.
1000%. Like, I feel like now I'm giving back to the person that's been giving to me.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
And that's second nature for me too.
I don't know any better. And this goes back to, again, the basis for becoming a law enforcement officer for a lot of these people is like, I wanted to serve my community. I was inspired by something. There's something happened in my life, or somebody in my life inspired me to do this, and this is what I'm trying to do. So I feel like I'm paying it forward as well.
Yeah.
So there's opportunity there. So if money is a thing, like there is opportunity, you just have to go seek it out, right? And be involved with other people that are doing the same thing, maybe off the clock, right? Out of their own pocket. But I do want to say something about what I just said with regard to the folks on the range that wear a badge and wear a gun every day, and that is their life. Their job is to serve and protect, that maybe aren't very good or weren't very good when I started. You know what? You know what the good thing is? They're fucking there.
Yeah.
They showed up. Right? They took time out of their day. They were getting a discount from the instructors or an instructor to be there. So again, going back to what you were just saying, but they're there trying to be better. And for that, I commend them.
Yeah.
What the point I was trying to make is, I think there's a huge misconception from the public's point of view of the amount of training that these people get, right? And what they are and aren't proficient at. And again, I think there's a huge gap in the amount of time and money we spend on soft skills that aren't the stuff that's going around right now versus skills on the street that ultimately the most important thing is that they're able to protect themselves. Right. And the people around them. And when they feel confident and comfortable doing that, it's how it often mistakes get made. Yeah. Right. Things happen. No situation is the same. You can't train for everything. But those people that are more highly trained generally come out on the other end better. It might be questioned by, media company A or, district attorney B or whatever the case. The point of that is they're out there trying to make themselves better. And I watched several of them progress very, very rapidly because they made it a regular habit. They saw, right? They didn't play this, well, I know I'm competitive, but I don't want to be embarrassed game like you just described a little bit before. And they were, what I've always respected about it is their respect for the civilians in that class that were better than them.
Yeah.
Right. Or that had something to bring to the table for them, maybe even help them out in a way. Maybe it was with talking to them about their gear, their setup. Maybe it was talking to them about their technique. Maybe it was just encouraging them or, wanting to team up with them and wanting to know more about their job and, and so forth. I think that community that gets built in those situations is really important as well. But
it's a small group, but the group that I've experienced with you, like the handful that's like that, I definitely agree. You just the thing is with all of them is just like humans in general, but I notice this a lot with like military and law enforcement is you got to check the ego. Because just because some civilian can outshoot you on the range doesn't mean he has all the skill sets that you have that make you well-rounded for the job.
Absolutely not.
But also you do have to train these skill sets individually and then combine them. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's just frustrating because there's a lot of ego and pride that go into it. You know what I mean? Whether it's fitness or firearms or medical or whatever it is. I mean, on all three of those, I've seen some pretty horrendous experiences just training with law enforcement and military in that capacity, more so law enforcement.
Yeah, but I've even seen in some cases, you know, like going back to the ego, going back to maybe the stigma or the fear of putting themselves in a situation where they might be exposed, might be embarrassed. And I go back to something else. And I've heard these guys say is, yeah, I don't want to show up to public range with these guys and get shot. Like, okay, valid concern. I don't want to get shot either, but let's just pause for a second and pump the brakes on that. Is that what's really happening out there? Is that what's happening out there?
I don't know.
I don't.
I know of.
I have not. I don't know one. I don't know one. I've been doing this a long time. I don't know of one case. I know of cases where people have gone out there and done stupid things and got kicked off the range, but I don't know any officers that have been shot by a civilian out there. Now, I'm not saying that hasn't happened. I'm just saying I don't know any of that. And I think you're making an excuse by saying, well, yeah, I don't want to go out there and get shot by a civilian. When what you're doing is you're not crediting a civilian that could be potentially way fucking better at you and have way more knowledge in the skill sets that you should have or should want out there on the range. That's an excuse. And to that point, there are instructors that do LEO only courses, right? To overcome that, right? Because you may be teaching techniques that are department specific, agent specific, and so forth, maybe equipment specific, based on, you know, what agency or what maybe special team you may be on or something like that. So that might be a reason for doing it. But the other reason is to break it up so that you don't feel like you take away those other things that maybe create hesitation for you to go out there and do that. This shit exists. You just have to find it, right? And I mean, we're in California. It's happening every weekend. At the least on the weekends. If you work on the weekends, your shifts on the weekends, it's happening during the week too. I mean, these classes are happening all the time. You just have to do some research and take some personal responsibility for that.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I'm just going to keep saying it, dude. Personal responsibility and taking ownership in anything you do. The people who are the best at what they do, they obsess about it. Now, I'm not going to say like, maybe that's not the healthiest thing to have the Mamba mentality as a fucking police officer, but, it's definitely not posting pictures of you drinking on Instagram because you need balance in your life. To me, that's not balance. I know from being an alcoholic that's not balance. So I don't know, man, with all of the resources we have, I just find it hard to believe, that these people can't be better at their job without having to make these crazy life-changing adjustments. And it's like I told you before, with the people I know, like the ones that quote unquote have balance, sometimes it ends up just fucking them anyways, because then they start doing things like, you know, kicking the feet up, drinking on a regular basis, and then trying to check out from their job. And then maybe they're resentful, and then maybe that bleeds into their home life, and then that home life gets destroyed. And then now they no longer like their job at all. Now they're looking for something else, and we don't have good quality law enforcement because of things like that. Not only are they not getting put in situations for success, but also like things like that happen when people let things fester instead of just like taking it, like being a fucking professional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do know. Yeah. You're looking to get better. What is the next thing I can do to improve my skill sets to be a better cop?
Yeah.
Right. Or whatever it is. And I know, and I don't know all the things, but I do know there are some things that you can be doing. You're a little bit bored. Fine. Figure it out. Do something different. Put in for a change. Learn some new things. Stimulate your brain. Stimulate your body. Stimulate the skills that you have. I know some of the local departments here, you can qualify on a carbine and you can get a rifle. That is a cool skill set to have. And by the way, it's highly applicable in today's world, but you have to qualify so that you can carry one of those things, right, in your car, right, versus the standard, shotgun or in whatever else that they're some of these departments are carrying now. Here's my point. My point is what are you doing to put yourself in the absolute best situation you can be in, right? So that, again, you can do your job at the highest level, have the highest level of credibility, show up to a situation and look the part, right? Because that is highly important, right?
Yeah.
Also talk the part, right? What are you doing? If you have communication issues, right? And if you do,
Yeah.
You've been told this already, right? But if you have communications, work on that. Get yourself with somebody that can help you with those things, right? And whether that's having communications within your department or having communications out there on the street, like, how do you do a better job? There are different skill sets here that you can be working on. And, when I look at like clients that come into the gym as an example, right? They go through this basic training, and then there's this world of discovery that happens, right? They're like, oh my God, I didn't know I could do this. Or what is this over here? Like, we just did this, this particular movement. I think I want to maybe explore this Olympic weightlifting thing. Okay, well then we need to start training. And this is a long-term plan in order to get you down this path. Or you know what? I've been working really hard with the fitness piece. I recognize I'm not handling my nutrition piece. Like, I would really like to reap all the rewards of the benefits of the work I'm putting in on the workout piece. I should start addressing the nutrition. Where do I start? Let's start talking with some basics. That's how you have to start, right? And it's not about going to get all the secrets, right, to automatically become qualified and say, to wear that I'm not going to say badge, but have that certification or whatever else to say I've done it. If that's why you're doing it, right, then stop it, right? It has to be intrinsic to, I want to be better, and this is the pathway to being better. And the public won't respect that, right? They're just not going to, right? The majority of the court of public opinion doesn't give two shits about that. You have to let that go. Like, you have to let that go. You have to be better because you want to be better.
Yeah, man. You have to be undeniable. Like, it is what it is, dude. You want to, I don't know what it's like to fucking wear the badge, but if you want to wear the badge, from my point of view, then be what you want to see in a cop, right? Look not intimidating like a dickhead or a douche, but intimidating like you have to gain respect from people, right? Whether that's your physical stature or just the way you carry yourself, the way you talk. And also you have to have, like I said earlier, the confidence in your shooting, or maybe, some sort of fighting or self-defense training, and also your fitness. You shouldn't be scared that, oh man, this guy fucking ran away. You know what I mean? You should fucking know, like, I personally, like, if anybody's gonna run away from me, I'm not like scared I'm not gonna catch up to them. You know what I mean? And I've told you this before, like, I do this thing where I don't know, I'm just really like observant with like people watching, but like I'll like see executive protection or law enforcement when I go anywhere, and I'll size them up, be like, oh, this guy's fucking, rocking plastic base plates. Obviously this fucking guy doesn't know shit about like, I'm not scared, or this guy is like clearly overweight. You know what I mean? Like, how are you supposed to gain respect and be an authority if those are the things that you're doing?
I think you could take it one step further, and that you should demand that same respect from the officers around you. And obviously that starts with leadership, which we have our leadership is very compromised now at a lot of different levels. There's great leaders out there. We don't generally hear about them. What we hear and see is the other, and I'm guilty of posting all the buffoons that are trying to be leaders and say they're leaders that clearly aren't. Like, I'm guilty of putting that out there. I try to put up the positive stuff, but it's just not that few and far. It's just few and far between. But to your point, it's you need to earn it, and then I think you need to demand it of the people around you. And we're continually making compromises, and I don't think that the public understands that, and they're not ever going to understand that unless it's changed internally at a department level, and that starts with the individuals. You can't expect somebody else to do it for you. You need to do it for yourself, and then encourage other people to do the same. And whether that's getting in the gym, right? And working on your fitness right now. You don't have to do it all at one time, but you need to do something. So you pick the biggest rocks that you can pick right now, right? To improve your situation. If that's your health and fitness, then start with the gym membership and get a personal trainer, invest there, right? Or get a coach, right? If it's your marksmanship or your confidence and your ability to handle your weapons platforms, whether it's one or plural, then hire a coach, take a course, get out there, get your feet wet, put in the hours, put in the reps, make a plan to get to the shooting range and do the things that you could be doing there. But don't depend on the basic level of training that you've been given, right? If all you're trying to do is basically meet the standard, all we're doing is the floor is so low there, right?
Yeah.
So hire a coach, get into a class, put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, and reach out for some help and get better there. If it's your mental and your emotional health, it might be stopping you from maybe taking next steps in these things. There are resources. We've had them here on this show. It's not the 1-800 number that's hanging over the urinal. I get it. I've learned that. I know it's awful that a lot of these departments don't provide better mental health and support and emotional support for their officers in every capacity that they work in. But there are people out there that can and want to help. So maybe that's where you need to focus your time right now, so that you can get into this different mindset and you can take care of yourself. But one way or another, like you have to do it for yourself, right? And you are fully accountable to that. And until you start taking accountability for that, the public and the quote unquote leadership for the departments that are currently in charge and making the decisions, and the politicians that, you know, are the tail wagging the dog, you know, at the end of the day, they're not going to respect you, and they're not going to make the change. And you're going to probably continue to see your buddies or your fellow people in law enforcement show up on the nightly news in some negative light. I think the tide starts from within, just like it does with anybody in their own journey. To be healthier, the journey starts from within.
Yeah. I mean, no one's benefiting from you complaining about the way businesses ran. You know what I mean?
Including yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to be the best version of you out there, because unlike other jobs, like the entire public can see you. You know what I mean? So if like you're a bad fitness coach, it's just the people in the gym that know that. But if you're a bad cop, dude, like you could end up on the fucking news, or even worse, because they're held to a higher standard. And there's things I've heard about, like what they can and can't do to defend themselves, and how they're supposed to de-escalate things. And tasers, we all know, don't work. For some reason, they still carry them. I get it, dude. But if you're going to choose the job, dude, I got to say, you're the only people in society that walk around with guns on your hip. If you're going to do it, man, like, I don't know, me personally, I've heard a lot of horror stories and experiences from, you know, whether it's like pimps and hookers or shit that they've seen on the street, bodies mangled, shit that I don't think mentally that I want to fucking deal with. So I'm not going to pretend to know that. But without Monday morning quarterbacking, if I were to choose to get in the profession of being in law enforcement, I 100% would continue to do the things that I do and what I value, whether that's fitness twice a week, fighting once or twice a week, shooting once every week or 2 weeks. I think that's manageable from what I've collected. I mean, we know people like fucking Jerry who does jiu-jitsu all the fucking time. And maybe he doesn't work, you know, for a department as often as he used to, but I mean, he values a lot of the well-roundedness of, you know, somebody who carries a badge, the things that they're supposed to train and be prepared for. Right. So for me personally, I don't know how you don't think about that, because I would personally live in fear, having to put myself into situations to protect people, knowing that there's violent and evil people.
Yeah. You weren't equipped.
Exactly.
To deal with it. Yeah.
So it's like, man, it's like you want to be on their side, and you want to feel bad about things because there's a huge mental capacity that, like, there's a weight that they have on them that 99% of jobs don't have on them. But also, like, you chose this job, so you got to do the things that makes you a professional, and what also, like you said, turns the tides and puts you guys in a positive light. And you have people like us that are willing, and other firearms instructors that we're friends with that are just like, dude, please come shoot with us.
Right. They want your business.
Yeah.
They need your business, but more importantly, they want to contribute. And I think that's the sort of this static or this friction that can kind of still exist within our larger community. But to that point, there are so many people in law enforcement that work their asses off on a hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis to not be that person.
Yeah.
I know several of them. They're amazing humans and officers in their own right. But they do it takes work, a lot of work for them to balance kids, spouses, the job, downtime, their mental health. They find outlets. They work out. Like working out is an outlet. For a lot of these people. It's not therapy, but it's an outlet to relieve stress, to balance hormones, to burn calories, to help you sleep better. There's all kinds of things, obviously, that are benefits there. And I've seen it happen. They come in, they're the more positive officer, right? They're the person that is always challenging themselves, right? And maybe even competing a little bit out there on the floor or on the range or whatever. I mean, it's just what I see. I know a ton of them, and they're awesome. And they're the ones that are frustrated about the people that don't want to be awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, like Red Dot's got programs. Red Dot wants to help people. Yeah. I know I could name 10 gyms right now that would be quote unquote my competitors that want to help. So get some help from you already mentioned the instructor piece. I mean, I'm going down this weekend. I'm going to Southern California this weekend. I'm going to meet up with Antonio Molina, who manages the Burro Canyon shooting range down there, basically public range that he manages, whatever. And there's going to be all kinds of people out there that have or currently do serve in law enforcement that are getting together to plan a huge event at the end of this year in November to invite civilians. Anybody can attend. Anybody can attend. I can tell you, I attended this event last year with you. You were there at the same time. And here's what I found. I found there were more civilians than there were officers, but the officers were there. Damn, they were sharp. In fact, in the first section that I took, it was a female officer for, I think, Riverside County Sheriff's Department that won the competitions that we had at the end of the day. And the only reason I mentioned that is because that was somebody who came out that day with a brand new platform. She was shooting a brand new staccato, and she said it right up front. She was super bold about it. She's like, we go around, everybody introduces themselves. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think this speaks to what I just said. And that is everybody's saying kind of where they're from and their backgrounds and whatever. She's like, you know what? I train frequently. By the way, good physical condition, probably mid-40s officer. She goes, I'm out here because I strongly believe you have to train how you fight, and I need to make sure that I'm prepared with this weapon. And she went out there, and every rep was like 110%. She was pushing the pace every single time, and at the end of the day, it paid off. She ended up, winning the competition, walked away with some cool swag, earned everybody's respect out there, and it was just like, well, that's how it ought to be. That's how it ought to be. But I'm going to be around a bunch of people that are just constantly trying to give back to the community. And the point of that is if you're not trying to take advantage of that right now within this community, whether you're an officer or otherwise, like I think you're denying it. Like you don't want to be a part of it because there's so many ways to be a part of it if you want to be a part of it. So I would just encourage these guys and women to get out there and search out these resources so that we can start turning this tide. Because as we opened up with today, it just frustrates the hell out of me that it's just gotten so gnarly in terms of the negativity.
Bad. And like I said, I think majority of it comes from above, like the law enforcement officers, how things are ran. I know that in school, I'm 32, so in school, it wasn't that long ago where, like in elementary school, where being a cop was still like, hey, I might want to be a cop. I might want to be a firefighter. And it was like, you were proud to say like, I want to do this. And like, I remember thinking like when one of my friends was like, I'm dead set on being like my dad, I want to be a detective. Like, and he like went through all the steps all the way through elementary, middle school, high school. I remember being like proud of him and like had a higher level of respect, even though I think he was like a dumbass. So when we fucked around and hung out, but I mean like,
we're all that way at some point.
Yeah, exactly. But like when it came to like his dedication to becoming a detective, which he is now, I was like, that is so fucking cool. And nowadays that's not the case in school. Nowadays, like it is very common for your average teacher to not say nice things about law enforcement. I think that's really too bad, dude, because it's a hard job and it's a rewarding job. But it's something that I think everybody in the community wants, whether they say it or not, is, some help. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I would hope that people like us and, some of the law enforcement that takes it a little bit more seriously can help, turn the tables and make it to where it's a thing again, where people are like proud and they take pride. Like, yeah, I want to be like a police officer. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like actually highly regarded, like to be at that position, and it's like highly valued. Cause right now, like it's hard to hear shit.
Yeah. And if you are that person that does have a certain level of pride, don't be too prideful to ask for it and not ask for help.
Yeah.
Get out there and do it. That's what I would say. Cause it's there. These are highly skilled people that are doing this, offering this training up, and some stuff that would blow your mind. I mean, stuff that's outside of status quo, and it may be a little bit different than what your department teaches or even allows you or suggests you can do, but that knowledge that you can take away and then apply and maybe ask questions and then kind of go practice from a skill sets, basic fundamentals perspective. God, that shit's invaluable. So it's likely not something you're going to get from your department. And a lot of these guys, a lot of these instructors are either current or ex-law enforcement that are doing this and will tell you, look, I know what your department's telling you. And I'm telling you, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying you should be looking at this maybe a little bit different way, because this is maybe a little bit more reality. This is not just we're teaching it this way because this is the way we've always taught it, right? We're teaching you this way because we found it to be efficient, effective, and help more people rather than, leave people in situations that they're unprepared for. So
yeah, and what I've collected is that usually the people who did take the extra time training throughout their law enforcement or military career, the people who took that shit seriously like they're supposed to as a professional, they usually end up getting burnt out of the job and then turning into somebody who trains people on that job, whether it's at a firearms capacity or fitness capacity or maybe both.
It's true.
And it's them giving back, but it's also them being like, well, fuck, dude, I need to like do my own thing and have my own business and be my own boss, because that was a lot, but also I still want to like give back.
It's true.
Yeah.
Some amazing human beings out there that are doing it. So.
Yeah.
Well, man, I mean, I don't know if this makes impact for people or not. I hope that it does on both sides. Maybe it gives a little bit of a different perspective. It's not, for again, both sides, the law enforcement side and also the civilian side of our community to start. Because I think our community could be doing a better job at supporting one another.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
So if you're one of those instructors, reach out, right? Reach out, make yourself available. It may be the unpopular thing to do, and you may hear no a lot of times, but we need your help, right? Yeah. And if you're an officer and you're hesitating right now, please stop. Reach out for help. Hit us if you want some suggestions. If you're living in California and anywhere you might live in California, you need a suggestion. It's highly likely we've trained with somebody in your area that we could directly hook you up with. It could be a completely private conversation about what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then what they might be able to do for you as an officer from like a training perspective, whether it be one-on-one, group, discounts, all that kind of stuff. Hit us up. Happy to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to side note this, not that I want this to be the conversation, but this is also why I feel like people like you and me exist, is because of all the inconsistency with law enforcement and with like some of the shootings that just happened, like mass shootings, like whatever the reason was for law enforcement to not respond the way we wanted them to in some of these situations, whatever that reason is, this is exactly why I am the way I am and you are the way you are, where we carry on a regular basis and we stay alert and we train, whether it's fitness or MMA or whatever it is. Like, we train shit because, not to sound corny, but like, you are responsible for yourself. So whether you're law enforcement and you want to look a certain way and be professional, or if you're just a citizen, like I've told you before, like at Santana Row, I had a situation where I was like, damn, am I really going to be the person right now to like de-escalate this like fist fight that's going on in the middle of a mall? You know what I mean? So without like telling that whole story, it's something to think about. That's why I don't feel crazy, not one bit, for trying to be aware and prepared for anything daily, because ultimately I think everybody needs to worry about themselves and then help others. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
I think that's the mission here, which is bringing awareness to that.
Yeah,
talking about and constantly seeking the knowledge and the skills through all different aspects, through the civilian, LEO, military communities, the people that have trained, but also outside of those communities, or the people that service those communities, so that we can help other people improve their knowledge and their skill sets, and give them resources for, getting the things that they need in order to be better, whether that's protecting themselves or protecting others.
Yeah.
So
they're just good people that are prepared.
I think it's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, man. It's always fun.
Talk to you soon.